Hi, I'm Kevin Harrington.
I'm Samba Bachili.
Nina Vaca, Chief Executive Officer of Pinnacle Group.
An original shark from the hit TV show Shark Tank.
CEO of ADS Group.
The largest Latina-owned workforce solutions in America.
I first identified myself as an entrepreneur when I was 15 years old.
My mother and father immigrated here with a suitcase and a dream. I had a front row seat to entrepreneurship. I am living proof of what is possible in this country.
Today, the marketplace is very tough.
The challenge for African market today is its access to capital.
The number one reason why we can't scale as entrepreneurs is access to capital.
What makes Glow so different and so powerful is the access to experts, gurus, mentors, coaches, financiers, venture people, money.
When I started my business, I immediately went to engage with different communities, different platforms. Glow makes that experience digital. A digital platform makes it so much faster and so much easier for you to meet like-minded people.
The financial platform that Glow have that make Glow unique.
Glow is about commerce, Glow is about community, and Glow is about having access to capital.
Glow is an asset to every entrepreneur in this country and globally.
It's about helping you take your business, your idea to the next step.
Hi there, and welcome to Business Acceleration 2.0. It's the program where leaders go to grow. It's brought to you by the Business Finishing School, an online program to help entrepreneurs grow their business by making it more profitable, making it more scalable, and making it more sellable. They do it with 100 different videos and workbooks and guidelines. It's an incredible program to go through as an entrepreneur. The program is also brought to you by the Global Leaders Organization, or GLOW, as we call it. GLOW is a membership organization that is made for the entrepreneur. It's based on 4 principles of community, because as an entrepreneur, you cannot do it alone, and you want to surround yourself with smart, like-minded individuals. It's based on the idea of commerce. We want to make sure that as a business owner, you're actually transacting and doing business with one another. Capital is another component of GLOW, because you never know when you're going to need it. If you're looking to raise capital in the next 6 months, whether it be debt or equity, you absolutely want to be joining GLOW. And then finally, content, much of like what you're going to experience today. The content we bring to you every week from this program, and also content that you receive from your chapter at a local level. So today we've got a very special guest. We've got Joseph Barisonzi that's here with us today, that's going to be talking about ESGs. But before we go there, let's just cover a couple of items. One, we want to make sure if you're watching us on social media that you like and subscribe to us. And that way you'll be notified of all of our upcoming events. Like next week, we have Rex Curzius here. And Rex is going to be talking to us about how to grow a business into a billion-dollar company, which is what he's doing right now. He's going to talk about how you build these companies to sell, which he's done several times. So he'll be our guest next week. His company today is called Asset Panda. So we'll be excited to have Rex on with us next week. Also, if you're watching us on social media, or if you're watching us here on Zoom, if you have a question for our guest today, put it up in chat, and someone from GLOW will get that question over to me, and we'll get an answer to our guest today, Joseph. And then finally, if you are a premium member of GLOW, you will continue to be granted access into our VIP room. The VIP room is a place where we carry on the conversation kind of behind closed doors, and it's not recorded, so you can feel free to ask any kind of questions you might want to. And it's made available for all of our premium members of GLOW. And if you're wondering, how do I become a premium member of GLOW? Just go to withglow.com, withglo.com, and become a member at the premium level. It's that simple. And you'll not only be able to enjoy the VIP portions of the program, you'll have VIP opportunities to come into our events that we do and meet our speakers, go backstage at our big local events, international events that we do. And you'll also be a member at your chapter at the local level within your city. So if you're not a member at the premium level of GLOW, when Joseph goes into the VIP room, I'm going to stick around and answer any questions you might have about GLOW. So feel free to stick around and ask any questions. Okay, so you're here because you want to understand, obviously, what ESGs are. I know I do, and we've got one of the top experts on ESGs here with us today. We're very fortunate because Joseph Barisonzi, who's here with us today, he's been at the forefront of democratization of financial capital for 3 decades. He's the reason why his expertise is the reason why we have him on board with GLOW. So we're very lucky to have Joseph on board at the Global Leaders Organization and helping direct us in regards to capital. Just to give you an idea, this gentleman has been doing this for 3 decades, right? So he's got such accolades. I want to go through and I'm going to read them because there's so many, but I want you to understand the magnitude of his expertise. So he was the managing director of an innovative community development financial institution focusing on the urban market. He was one of the early advocates for asset-based community development, ABCD, which was an approach to social entrepreneurship. And he advanced models which became known as the triple bottom line enterprises. He developed an alternative community currency program, which won the Innovations in Government Award from Harvard University. Joe was awarded the prestigious Grand Prize Brick Award for Community Leadership by Do Something, which was an MTV and a Mademoiselle magazine that was for his community development work. Joseph has worked with small businesses, leveraging the tools such as CDFIs, grants, SD IRAs, SBA loans, EB-5 immigrant investor visas. He was senior policy. This is a really cool one. He was a senior policy advisor to many federal elected officials and policy agencies on the Jumpstart Our Business Startup. So that was the Jobs Act that was signed by President Obama, which helps small businesses go out and solicit capital. He started a company called Community Leader, which was the very first private label platform for digital solicitation of sell and support of private and exempt securities, where he helped over 150 different investment portals on 3 different continents, and every year doing over 250 million of private and exempt investments. He's got a company, Nuclei Marketing, which is focusing on investor acquisition campaigns. And he's the EVP of transactions at GLOW, the Global Leaders Organization. So all of that to say, which was so impressive, but I know the thing he's most impressed, I mean, not most impressed, but the thing he's most proud of is the fact that he is a father to his daughter, Hannah. He's so proud of his daughter, Hannah. So, okay, that's a lot to say.
That makes me feel really old and grizzly and cynical and tired. Thanks for that. That's great.
Well, I want everybody to understand how you are sitting in the seat talking about ESGs, because a lot of people don't even know what an ESG is or are very confused about it. So Joseph, what I'd like for you to do is give the background and help us understand even what an ESG is, how they started, et cetera.
Great. Well, it's an interesting story. Real quickly, E, S, and G. The E is for environment. The S is for social. The G is for governance. And there are a set of metrics or goals that we can use to guide the growth and development of our business in a way that increases its social responsibility around those issues. So really, ESGs are linked to the trends that we've been talking about on this show for a long time of conscious capital and sustainable investing. So in the sustainable investing trend, it was always, how do I link my values to how I invest in businesses or projects? And on the conscious capital side, and we've had as a guest on this show some of the foremost leaders in the conscious capital movement, is how do I run my business as a force for good? So back in 2014, the then Secretary General of the United Nations, Kofi Annan, pulled together a group supported by the government of Switzerland and a government or a business coalition called Global Compact. And they pulled together a coalition and they developed a report about how to link these critical global goals with businesses, not just around a feel good, but around the bottom line, how to actually link conscious capital, sustainable investing with financial returns. So that was kind of the beginning, 2014, of this particular portion of the conversation, which was very much around the business of social responsibility, social investing. So current estimates are that about one third of all assets under management globally will be driven by ESG metrics by the end of the decade. So it would appear that this goal of linking business to our common goals has been established. But we are still very, very early in this journey, and there are a wide variety of metrics which interpret the E, the S, and the G very, very differently. So for some, it's about becoming resilient to projected environmental and social impacts of climate change. So a high ESG score on some reporting metrics is about, have you prepared yourself as a company for changes in the supply chain of energy or in the distribution of people? For others, it's about making the baby steps. How can I make the little baby steps in my business to be a little bit better than I was? So can I take my plastic bottles, which amount to a third or a fifth of all the plastic bottle waste at Coca-Cola, and design them so that they could be recyclable? Just that little baby change. And then for others, ESGs are really about, how do I become a force of good? How do I make significant structural change to have a positive impact? So as these metrics become standardized, Michelle, and regulation will become part of that, as they become more transparent, there will be increasing paths for every type of company, big and those that you and I care most about, the small, medium-sized businesses, really to become part of the overall solution in a way that's demonstrable, trackable, and reportable. And that's on the E, S, and G.
So give us a couple of examples just for some individuals to have a better understanding. What's an example of a company that fits the E, and then one that fits the S, and one that fits the G, just to help us?
So what's fantastic about the space where the ESGs are now, so much money, so much investment is flowing into this space. Every business, every publicly traded business is communicating their E, their S, and their G, and have partnered up with one reporting mechanism or another. This has created a huge divide between your and my normal assumption of what companies I would mention and what companies are filling the ESG portfolios. And that divide is becoming consternation in the regulatory market. So when I think about really environmentally solid businesses, I think of companies like Patagonia that have dramatically reduced their carbon footprint. They have changed what their products are. They've changed how they distribute their products. They have transparency of their supply chain. But when you look at like who dominates the ESG metrics, you're going to see companies like ExxonMobil. You're going to say, wait a second, how does ExxonMobil, that is one of the largest producers of carbon emissions in the world, end up on some companies' ESG metrics? And it's because, remember where I said that it can also be about your resiliency to climate change? And the investment analysts have said, you know what? Exxon's doing a great job of positioning itself for a post-petroleum energy market. They're going to be just fine, so we can invest in them. So as opposed to being part of the active solution, they're well positioned for the change. So that's where this is going to change. But pretty much every company is now, from Coca-Cola to Ben and Jerry's, as opposite ends of the spectrum, are now reporting out on how they're doing on environmental issues, how they're doing on social issues, how they're doing on governance issues. And this makes and we'll get to it later, I think, opens up a huge opportunity for those of us that work with small businesses and our small businesses.
Okay, so let's go then and talk about, and let's do this from a big vision standpoint. What's the impact for businesses today, for the entrepreneurs that are tuning in? What's the impact? Start with the big vision first, and then we'll drill down.
Okay, so we'll start kind of at the global. What's the impact, and then we'll hit specifically small businesses. Good plan. So the emergence of ESG metrics as a driving force, primarily in investing, has created an incredible opportunity for reflection on the role of business itself in both the problems we face and the solutions that they can provide to those problems. So at the most global, the impact of the rise of the ESGs is an opportunity to reflect on, is business here purely to make money, to maximize profit, or is business here for more? And our natural environment, especially climate change, we're here at the tail end of the global conference looking at how do we increase the human response to climate change. Our natural environment has some very significant challenges. Many of our communities, like the communities of color, have significant challenges. Many of these challenges are, in fact, byproducts of how companies operate. And we cannot separate how companies are operating from these problems. But the myopic focus on profit, while ignoring the environmental and social consequences of our choice, have exacerbated that. So the ESGs are part of a global trend by new generations of wealth managers to really reaffirm that critical role of values in decision-making of how we run our businesses and how we spend our money. So we often talk on this show about value-driven leadership. And sometimes that value-driven leadership, by like Rick, one of our favorite guests, value is about the value of your business. And others, like the one we reran yesterday with Murphy, is about your personal values and how those are reflected in the business. So as we connect those values and we look at the environmental degradation, the environmental change, the social impact of that change, we have an opportunity now from a business perspective, with capital flowing, to reflect on how our business itself can be a force for good, not just to mitigate the bad, not just to respond to the bad or mitigate the bad, but actually be part of the solution. So we can get into in the Q&A later a lot of the bad side of the ESG, because there's a lot of them. But if the focus on ESG reporting decreases capital for companies, or increases capital for companies that are intentionally being part of the solution, the big impact is good. If global standards emerge, which increase the scalability of the positive solutions, then it's good. If reporting systems mature so that transparency and actual impact become key parts of the ESG equation, the impact will be good. If companies, big and small, are forced to have conversations beyond what fancy picture to put on the marketing department's annual report, but actual discussions about how we manage our supply chain and even what products we choose to market and sell, then the overall impact will be very, very good.
So it's, what I'm hearing you say, it's really about companies not only, looking at their bottom line, but it's really about doing good. And as you said, there's a lot of companies that don't. There's a term in the industry that's called greenwashing. What is that?
Yeah. So greenwashing is when I add a veneer of good to what I'm doing in order to change my perception in the market. So I can be go back to Coca-Cola, I can be the number one, producer of plastic waste in the world, which Coca-Cola is, but I can spend a little bit of money on marketing that I've designed my product so that it could be recycled and make it appear as though I'm taking a leadership role without looking at the underlying issue of should I continue to be using plastic bottles to deliver my product in the first place, right? So greenwashing is when it's just a marketing thing. And all of us, everybody listening right now could greenwash their company with the E or the G or the S. You can do it. The question is, should you do it? And couldn't we do more, right? So as small businesses, we could just greenwash what we're doing. But what I'm going to propose is that the ESGs open up an opportunity for us to have a deeper conversation about who we are as a business leader, who we are as business owners, who our business is, and how we are choosing to be part of the solution or just a greenwashed part of the problem.
Okay, so let's just stay on that for a minute. So let's go deeper then. So what's the impact for most people watching today are small businesses, right? So what's the impact for a small business? Why should the small business care like you're asking everyone to do?
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to start again, kind of at that top. We care because we live on this earth. We care because we live in communities with other people. We care because we have kids that we will be passing this earth on to. That should be the core. Now, once we go there, we can go, okay, we care because we want our businesses to be valuable and to be sustainable. We care because we want them to grow. So we care about what the investment community and the larger community is looking at in its evaluation and in its valuation of what will be valuable. And it is clear by the movement of the money that companies that have higher ESG scores will be considered by the market more valuable. And as a small company, one of the places you get the most value is in your role in the supply chain. So as a vendor or a partner to larger companies, lots of our members are building companies that are instrumental pieces of larger companies' supply chains. So as those companies look to increase their scores in the E, the S, and the G, they will need to get deeper and deeper into their supply chain and will be looking for companies in their supply chain which become part of their ESG solution. So we go back to Patagonia, which is considered really one of the best companies. I was reading a great article by one of their corporate leaders saying, we refuse to use the word sustainability to describe ourselves. And everybody in sustainable investing is like, what? You are sustainable from our perspective. They pointed out that 95% of their carbon footprint comes from a supply chain that they have little control over right now. So their big initiative is how to find vendor partners that are committed to decreasing their global carbon footprint so that they can integrate them into their supply chain. So from a small business perspective, I think we have to start, and I'll keep coming back to this, we have to start in that you're doing it because it's the right thing. And that if you're just doing it to strategically position your business, it's never going to work. It's going to be inauthentic and it's going to fail. And when the time comes to make hard decisions, you're always going to make the one that is not in alignment with those underlying values.
Okay, so as a small business, I know you've got a 7-step process so that individuals, so small businesses can get going. So what?
Well, you're not really allowed on Business Acceleration 2.0 as a speaker unless you're able to distill your lessons into like 5 to 10 action points. So I spent a bunch of time figuring out how to distill ESGs into some 5 to, I ended up with 7. Could have been 8, it could have been 6. But points on how to increase your, as a small business, your ESG score. And I'm sure that everybody listening can guess my first one. And I'll go through the 7 and then we can dig in deeper on each, right? So the first one is you have to have a reflection on your personal goals and values. That has to be the foundation. This is all about integration of values into business. You have to start there. Number 2 is to understand your unique connection, where in the big picture your company uniquely fits. Number 3 is to align to the global frameworks. Number 4 is to integrate ESG into your business strategy. Number 5 is to understand the ESG ratings. Number 6 is to strive for investment grade data. And number 7 is consider all your communication platforms. So should we dig into each of those, Michelle?
Dude, yeah, we've only got a couple of minutes so before we go to questions. So yeah.
All right, we'll go fast. So I'm not going to keep going on reflection on your personal goals and values, but we have some amazing speakers. And I got to tell you, I love the Business Finishing Schools framework for documenting your personal goals and values. Strongly recommend that program for doing that. The next is understanding your unique connection. So we're all going to be tracking different E, S, and Gs, but your values, your goals, and your business will provide you a framework of focus. You can't do it all. We don't need you to do it all. We all need to do the best we can within what is manageable for us. Needs to be authentic. If part of who you are, and I know this is very much part of Michelle, is lifting up women leaders to be in positions of governance of companies, make that the G of your ESGs. The third is that it is very helpful. You will find it increasingly helpful to align your goals with some of the global frameworks. And I'm going to give you 3 of them to look at. One is the Global Compact, which started ESGs. The second is the Global Reporting Initiative, which is emerging as one of the primary places, the Global Reporting Initiatives. And then my favorite, which is the UN Sustainable Development Goals, or the SDGs. So as you're looking at what you're going to do, you should be able to hang your hook on specific goals within those frameworks. The third is, or I don't know what number we're for, integrate ESGs into your business strategy. So how will climate change impact your supply chain? How are you going to become resilient to that? Is part of your business strategy. Are there new opportunities that are opening up that you can take advantage of because of the changing market? That should be in your business strategy. And then how can you actually become a force for good? How does that become part of your strategy? And on a company by company basis in Q&A, we can talk about that. The next is understand your ESG ratings. Let me tell you, you are not getting rated right now, but you will be. None of us consciously chose to be rated by one of the credit reporting companies, but all of our lives are impacted by the credit reporting companies. None of us make day-to-day decisions based on how that will affect our credit score. but all of us do take the credit score's underlying metrics into account as we make bigger decisions. Sometimes about how we buy a product or whether or not we buy that product at all, right? Our debt to income ratios, our available debt to use debt, all impacting our credit score. ESGs will be the same way. There's industry specific ones. As they become more clear over the next couple of years on which ones are going to become more important or less important in your industry, make sure that you know how they're assessing and calculating for you. The next is to strive for investment grade data. I love the annual reports that say, and then we raised $20,000 and gave it to an organization in Zimbabwe. Beautiful. Love that. Glad you're doing it. That's not investment grade data, right? Investment grade data is outcomes. It's measurable. And I'm just going to list from the London Stock Exchange, which is a great leader in this space, 7 characteristics of investment grade data. It's accurate. It has boundaries. It aligns to your fiscal year and your business ownership model. You're taking credit for what you can take credit for. It's comparable and consistent across platforms. The data is provisional, meaning you're using raw and normalized data. Its timeliness means that you're providing data to coincide with your annual reporting cycle. It's got external assurance, meaning other people can look at it and review it. And it's balanced, including both objective and subjective, favorable and unfavorable data. So I will include this all in a blog on the GLOW website, not just my overall 7, but key points like this. And my last is consider how you communicate this. For some of us, just doing it is enough, but it comes back to what your goals and objectives are. The need to promote it is not just about ego. It can also be about holding yourself accountable. When I report what I'm doing to a larger community of stakeholders, I'm enrolling those stakeholders in holding me accountable to what I say I'm going to do. So think about how you communicate the ESGs that you've adopted, the strategies you've chosen, and how you're tracking on that for yourself. So those are the seven points uniquely created for GLOW.
So I just put those 7 points up in chat. Greg was asking for that. We're also going to put that up onto the GLOW discussion board as well. Okay. For all those that are listening. And we do have questions that have come in. So I want to start. We do. So
Awesome.
I want to start with the first question that's come in from Jennifer.
Hi, Jennifer.
So how do these ESGs benefit my business? I have a catering service and I'm very environmental, but how can I implement these ESGs and how can they benefit my bottom line?
Mm-hmm. So the first is again, really identify for you personally where food, the sourcing of food, the sustainable sourcing of food comes from. Look at your supply chain of where and how you're getting that food. Set for yourself some goals of increasing the sustainability, the amount of organic and sustainably grown, local grown, farm to table type food that you're using as a personal commitment towards being part of the solution. And then make that part of your marketing. Make that part of the story that you tell your stakeholders and your customers so that it is part of why they choose you. So as bigger companies are looking for caterers for their dinners, and they want to be able to report on how they've done a better job in their supply chain around food and food security and food issues, they will know that they can come to you and count on you because you have transparency and data to show that you are sourcing sustainable, organic, locally grown, farm to table food.
Could they also even dive into the staff that they hire? Could that also be part of it?
Absolutely. I'm always, Michelle, going to focus on the core product because I believe that the other issues around social and governance are a little bit easier. I don't mean to dismiss those or take those off the table, but looking at how you're staffing, I worked with a catering company many years ago that about a third of their staff were directly out of a prison environment, creating good, sustainable, stable jobs for reintegration of those people into the community. It was a fantastic program. There was lots of resources to support that. On food, one of our critical issues around food security is food waste. The United States and other industrialized countries have an enormous amount of waste. There's a ton of startup companies and startup initiatives and programs to get food that's left over from big events into shelters and into transitionary housing facilities. So there's that side of the equation as well.
Okay, another question that's come in.
That kind of feels, Michelle, like a little bit of a hot seat that we should just like do company after company. That would be fun.
Okay, so here's a question that came in. How can we research more about this? Where can I find more information about ESGs? Is there a government website somewhere?
There is not yet a government website, but based on Janet Yellen, our Treasury Secretary's role at the Global Climate Conference this last week, I expect there will be a lot more. I also expect that you will see a lot coming out of the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, because while we didn't get into the regulation of this, it is the number 2 regulatory priority of the Biden's SEC, cryptocurrency being number 1, ESG regulation being number 2. I'm going to take everything that I've said here with links to source material and put it up on the GLOW website blog, and then deeper information for the members inside the members site. And I regularly manage am watching the live chat on the GLOW site. If you want to connect directly with me, and I can find resources, sources, individuals that are in your market space to connect you with on these issues.
Perfect. That's great, Joseph. Okay, so question is from Mark. He's asking the question, isn't this mainly for public companies? I mean, how does this impact private companies?
That's a great question, Mark. It is sustainable investing lived predominantly in private companies. The ESG framework has lived predominantly with public companies. So you're absolutely right. ESGs is currently predominantly public companies, and different terminology is used for the private companies. But let's go back to that link I made before about where you get your capital and where you get your customers. And for private businesses who will be part of the supply chain of bigger businesses or of government, you will end up needing ESG reporting, ESG strategies, and ESG outcomes. Think of it this way. Back when the governance issue of gender and ethnic or race ownership of businesses became an issue, right? First, it was just an issue for the public companies and for government, but then they migrated that into their supply chain. So then private businesses in construction were looking to partner with minority-owned businesses or women-owned businesses because they needed to meet their own, the bigger companies needed to meet their own goals and objectives. So one of GLOW's big leaders, Nina Vaca, has built a huge company as a woman-owned, minority-owned business in the staffing industry. It got her in the door, but it didn't get her to close the deal. She still needed a high quality product with great service, but those big companies needed her documentation of her G and her S to fit into their ESG goals.
That's good. Thank you, Joseph. That's great. Great answer.
I just love tying all the great people we've had at
Yeah.
Glow into all these. This is fun.
Okay, so Helen's asking this question, and I support her on this. I get lost in all the regulations and terminology, but I really like the idea of ESGs. Is there some kind of guideline or step-by-step process that I can follow? Is it those
So
seven?
I'm hoping that those 7 points help, Helen.
Okay.
And I'm inviting you to get into conversation with me on how together we can make those 7 points easier and work better for Glow members. So that a year from now, when we're talking about this same topic, or 3 years from now, those 7 points have become 8 or become 6, and they're slightly different. And we've finessed them and massaged them to make a lot more sense for small businesses. So let's collaborate on making this much easier. It is overwhelming. When you really get into the complexity of carbon mitigation and carbon capture and parts per billion and all the social issues, from what's a living wage job and how do I ensure that my employees have access to healthcare, it can be overwhelming. And that's why point number 2 was focus. Start small. Focus on something that's really meaningful to you and very consistent or authentic with your business.
Okay, so I'm going to combine 2 questions because they both work with one another. Kendrick's asking a question, and so is Jay. So the question is, how does a company even get an ESG score? And then how do you increase your ESG score?
Right. So there are a variety of different companies right now, and connect with me and I can find the right one for you, that are doing ESG scoring. It is largely driven by self-reported data. They give you the forms, you fill it out, and they do an assessment and calculation from that. You can then use that score like a credit rating as a guide for you on where you're headed. It's not a day-to-day tracking measure like a stock price. It's a guide. The cost of doing that will be too high for most of us. So until that price comes down and until it becomes more standardized and more transparent, you can make your own. So you can make your own goals for E, S, and G. You can track your own targets and you can provide your own reporting of how you're going to get there, and you can make your own score until then, as long as you are guided by my investment grade data that I stole or adopted kindly from the London Stock Exchange.
You borrowed.
I borrowed. I'm just going to jump real quickly. So ESGs we talked about are part of this trend of sustainable development, sustainable investing, And another one that's really close to my heart is one that Greg has asked in the chat by the members that are on in the Zoom room about how this fits into the B Corp model and the benefit corp model. And the benefit corp model is very interesting because it comes out of the same desire by business owners to not just be accountable for profit, but to have the opportunity to integrate other values into the outcomes of their business. So some folks felt like that the law had become so restricted around what was called fiduciary responsibility that they needed to create a different incorporation model called benefit corporations, which allowed them to document environmental, social, or other stakeholder benefits of their business and to reincorporate in that format. So I live in Minnesota, second state in the country to develop a B Corp incorporation model. And we've got everybody from banks to huge companies like Land O'Lakes that have reincorporated themselves into that B Corp model so that they have a legal framework from which to show that, yes, they may, as a board and management, make decisions which are not maximizing profit, but because it is the profit is being balanced with other organizational objectives.
Okay, so Greg, hopefully I saw your question too. So hopefully that helps answer the question you were putting out. We're at that point now, Joseph. That went really fast. Joseph is going to be going over into the VIP room, and he's going to carry on this conversation about ESGs, which are really important for the future of our world, of our planet, and for our children and grandchildren. So, Joseph, I appreciate you taking on this topic. It's a really important one, and thank you so much for today.
Thank you for starting the conversation within the Glow community, and I look forward to continuing it.
Wonderful. I'm going to stick around and answer any questions you might have about Glow. Joseph is going to go on into the VIP room, so any of our premium members can head on over and ask some specific questions directly to Joseph. It's not being recorded, so it's, it might be a little bit easier to ask some of those questions.
The secret club of the ESG.
Yeah. I'll stick around and answer any questions that might be about Glow. Do we have people that are still sticking around?
We do have a couple people still sticking around, and always people are curious about Glow, interested in what's going on. And so, as we often do at this point, what a great, you never have a lack of information with Joseph. One thing for sure, I just want to say is you could get by with 3 questions for the whole event, I think, because his answers are so thorough.
Yeah, and he's so knowledgeable. That's why we wanted him on.
Exactly. It's so great.
Right on Glow. One thing I want to hit real quick with Craig, I've already got someone that's pinging me to ask about the March 3rd through 6th event in Dallas, Texas.
I was just about to bring that up. Please do.
Okay, so Leaders 50 is an event that's happening March 3rd through the 6th in Dallas, Texas. It's at the Adolphus downtown in Dallas. It's going to be the inaugural event for the Leaders 50. However, it's not the first event for the boot camp that we're doing. So the Leaders 50 is the first time that we're going to be awarding and recognizing the top 50 leaders from around the world. And anyone can nominate themselves, and anyone can nominate their CEO. We're going to be basing the criteria on individuals, leaders, the CEO of a company that really showed their capabilities during 2021. So we've got, how you treated employees during 2021, how you treated vendors during 2021, what kind of innovative ideas did you come up with, all during the pandemic. And this is going to be an award that's going to be recognized. There's going to be a tremendous amount of publicity and exposure that will come from this award. And we're going to be selecting the top 50. So you want to make sure that you put in and fill out the nomination for either yourself or your CEO. But at that event, we're going to have a huge, array of speakers that will be there. We'll have Kevin Harrington that's going to be there. That's going to be talking about how he looks at companies he invests in and the ones that he selects and why. We're actually going to be doing a pitch off. So if there's a company looking to raise capital, they can go into the pitch off. We're going to have Vince Pacenti that's going to be there talking about his newly released book, The Earthquake. Talking about when the rug gets pulled out from underneath you, what do you do? How do you continue moving forward? What steps do you take? We're going to have Ford Sakes there, putting companies in a hot seat, reviewing their marketing. So a tremendous amount of content, and we hope that, and the second day is going to be content all around Business Finishing School's content. So how do you make your company profitable? How do you make it scalable? Really working through the program to help entrepreneurs get to that point where they've got a company that's truly saleable. Not that they have to sell their business, but if they're interested in it.
That sounds like really valuable information, really useful information, and a great way to spend time in Dallas. Just, also Dallas is a great place to go spend time anyway. So what an opportunity. So what are the dates? March
3rd through the 6th.
And how can people learn more about this that aren't currently on our Glow?
Yep, they can go to the Business Finishing School website, which is businessfinishingschool.com, and they can sign up for the live summit. So if they just click on live summit, they can sign up there.
Great.
Yeah.
All right. So
we still have people on social media?
We have people on social media, and I think one of the things that people are most interested in when it comes to Glow
Yeah.
is how much does it cost? What are the benefits that people get for joining? Because everyone goes to Glow now. I will say I know that we have a free membership where people can join and not pay anything and still get some very nice benefits of Glow. But what's the real advantage of becoming a paying full dues member of Glow? What does that do for you? And can you talk about that a little bit? Because I think that's the bridge point that people really need.
Yep, absolutely. So look, as an entrepreneur, I started off, I wasn't planning on being an entrepreneur and running a business, but my business continued to grow. And I didn't go to school for business. I went to school to study film and TV. So I needed help. And as an entrepreneur, it's really lonely as the CEO because you're handling questions that you really can't take to your employees, right? So as a member of Glow, you get into a room at your local chapter level with other entrepreneurs that you can share information with. You can ask questions. How'd you do this? What did you do about this? People are sharing their information. So you've got a peer-to-peer network of other individuals that are smart out there doing it and that you can learn from. That's number one, joining a community to help you build and grow your business. Number two, what makes Glow really unique is the ability to raise capital. We have investment portals. So if you're looking to raise capital in the next 6 months, whether it be debt or equity, doesn't matter. Glow is the place to do that with our investment portals. And then third, we have a marketplace. So if you're wanting to increase your business by doing more transactions, the marketplace comes with your membership. You can promote and advertise and market on marketplace as often as you would like as a premium member. So you get all of that for the price of $1,197. And right now we've got Forum that we include in that price. So if you're interested in joining a Forum, you can get that with your membership as of now.
So tell me a little bit about Forum. What's the...
Yeah. So Forum is so your chapter will have 50 to 100 different CEOs, so other business leaders. And you get to know people, but you really can't get deep. So the forum is a subset of your chapter. So it'll be no more than 10 people in your forum. And you go through a training and you learn how to communicate in this forum and you learn how to create a very safe environment so that you can share all sorts of information, business, personal. I've been in forum for 25 years. I've had forum mates that have gone through deaths, divorce, closing of a business, IPOs, selling of a business, bankruptcies. So I've learned and experienced from all these other members in my forum going through these trials and tribulations. But I've also gained friends. I've gained my best friends in this forum. So you get that with your membership. And I've been involved in other CEO organizations. We took all the best components of things I've been involved with and we kind of upped the game a little bit and made it a little bit better. But we did it for a fraction of the price. So you can get all of this for $1,197, basically $100 a month to have this kind of interaction with really smart other thought leaders in your city and a way to do business with them. And if you're in need of capital, we want to assist and help you find the right capital.
Wow, that does sound really, really valuable. That is absolutely awesome, Michelle.
I think so too.
Yep.
Did it.
So
if we still have more people hanging around, I'll answer.
No, I think everyone's asked the questions. I'm not getting any new questions in. I think people are pretty happy, and certainly there's a lot to think about from Joseph's presentation. So fantastic.
Right. So if anyone's still listening, then remember next week we've got Rex Kurzius talking about how to build a $1 billion business.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, Craig. So thank you everyone who tuned in and stay safe and God bless.